of supplies, a boy wakes up without memories. As the elevator ascends, he hears one of the boxes make a weird noise and takes a closer look only to be startled by a pig. When the elevator reaches the surface, a door opens and dozens of boys appear to look at him. Gally jumps in and calls the boy a greenie before taking him out. The guy panics and starts running to escape, but he discovers he's in a small glade surrounded by huge walls, so there's no exit. Afterward, the boy is thrown into a cage and the leader Albie comes to ask him some questions, so the boy nervously explains he doesn't remember anything. Albie says that's normal and that none of the guys here have any memories except for their names, which usually are remembered after a day or two. After the newbie promises not to run again, Albie lets him out to give him a tour of the place. The group lives in this small glade and they do all the chores required to survive, like hunting and building shelters. Anything else is brought by the elevator, which they call the box. Once a month the box sends up fresh supplies and a new amnesiac boy, who is nicknamed Greenie. Nobody knows who sends them the things or why they're there. The newbie notices a creepy door in the wall and Albie mentions the 3 rules. Do your part, never harm another person, and never enter that door. Afterward Chuck finishes giving the Greenie the tour, but the new guy is obsessed with looking at the door. At that moment Ben and Minnow come out and the newbie is surprised, saying he thought they weren't allowed to enter. Chuck explains that only a handful of boys can do so because they're the designated runners, casually mentioning that there's a maze behind the wall. The Greenie approaches the door to take a closer look but he's pushed down by Gally, who reminds him of the rules. As the new guy freaks out and demands an explanation, the other boys surround him to try to calm him down. The conversation is interrupted when the maze starts moving and the door suddenly closes. That night the boys throw a party to celebrate the new arrival. Newt tells the Greenie that the runners go every morning into the maze to map it. They've been looking for an exit for 3 years but haven't found anything yet. At that moment a strange noise can be heard from the maze and Newt explains it changes every night. If the runners don't come out before the doors close, they have to spend the night in the maze and nobody has survived such a thing because monsters known as grievers kill them. The Greenie wants to be a runner, but Newt says runners are chosen. Then the newbie is accidentally pushed by Gally and another kid who are currently wrestling. Gally asks him if he wants to wrestle too and all the boys form a circle around them. The rule is simple, whoever pushes his opponent out of the circle first wins. The fight begins and Gally immediately shows off his skills, easily throwing the newbie around while mocking him with nicknames. After some struggle, the newbie manages to grab Gally and throw him on the ground, which impresses everyone. Gally immediately retaliates by kicking him to make him fall and the newbie hits his head pretty hard, causing him to remember that his name is Thomas. That night Thomas dreams about running, a strange lab, and a woman's voice saying wicked is good. The next morning Albie takes Thomas to a place on the wall where all the boys have carved their names. While Thomas adds his, he notices some names were crossed out because they died. When Thomas goes to the woods to pick up fertilizer, he finds a grave and a bunch of bones in the ground. He's then startled by Ben, who looks very sick and keeps growling. Suddenly Ben tackles Thomas, saying things like I saw you and you did this, it's your fault. He tries choking Thomas, who grabs a skull and hits him with it to escape. A chase ensues and Thomas manages to yell